Hey everyone, today we are going to look at y equals mx plus b. So it's called slope-intercept form. We're going to use slope that we learned earlier, and we're going to use our b, our y-intercept, to help write an equation. So we're going to maybe be given just m equals and a number and b equals and a number, and we have to write the equation. Or they'll give us a table, or they'll give us a graph, and we will have to write the equation. So let's take a look. All right, so how we're going to do it. So if you take a look, I gave you our rise over run, the slope formula at the top of this page. We'll use that and reference it. And then we'll also use this equation for y equals mx plus b, okay, where y and x are your variables. It is a specific point, and we'll look at that in a second. And then our m is our slope, and our b is our y-intercept, which you learned about y-intercept yesterday. So now, how do we do it? So we are given this graph. The first thing we want to do is find slope. So I'm going to take my pen here so you can see, and it gives us two dots. I'll just use those. I'm going to create a right triangle in order to find slope on a graph. So I'm going to count those squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from one point to another, I went up 4, and when I went over 2. Now the easiest way is to count your slope when given a graph, if you're able to. Otherwise, we could plug those points up here into the slope formula. But 4 divided by 2 will give you 2 as our slope. So that will be our m. That's a horrible looking 2. Let me try that again. All right, so we get 2 equals m. That's our m. Now, it says on the next little bullet point, what is our y when x is 0? What that means is, where does it cross your x or your y axis? So we want to know the y-intercept, and that is this point right here. Where does it cross that intersection point? Okay, it crossed the y-axis right here, and so it is at that point, somewhere there, right? So we have to count. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our b is equal to 5. Now, we're not done. We are going to write it. It says plug in the values of m and b into your equation. All right, so I have y equals 2x plus 5. Now, the slope will always be in front of this x right here. Okay, it will always be in front of the x. That's your slope. So the slope is 2. Remember, we got it from right up here. Okay, and now this plus sign. How do you know if it's a plus sign or a minus sign for your b value that we got from here? Okay, remember we grabbed it from over here. So we know it's a plus sign because it's on the positive side of our graph. If it was way down here somewhere on our graph, and I know I have a lot of arrows going on, but if it was down below, it would be a minus 5. All right, so this one was nice because it gave you a graph. So let's look at number 2. And number 2 gives you a table of values. So let's go back up here. We have to calculate our slope. We can do the change in y over the change in x. So I'll keep it the blue. Now you have to decide this is one coordinate and this is one coordinate. I could choose any of these coordinates to use, okay, but I'm going to choose 2 of them. So my y's are right over here. I'm going to have 11 minus 3 over 2 minus 0. Now, how did I do that? This is my first coordinate, so that's y1. This is my second coordinate, so that is y2. And this would be my first coordinate, so that's x1. And this is my second coordinate, so it would be x2. Now, if you remember, up here was our rise over run slope formula. Okay, that's what I plugged in. 11 minus 3 goes right up here for the y's. Our x's was 2 minus 0. Let me get back to here. So we can put that in our Desmos. You can do it in your head. If you happen to have a TI calculator, you can go alpha y equals. Okay, so alpha y equals is the easiest if you have a calculator. If you have your phone calculator, I would do the numerator, the top part first, and then the second part down here at the bottom, and then go from there, okay? So 11 minus 3 is 8. This is how you would just do it without a calculator. And then 2 minus 0 is 2, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we have our m, our slope. All right, so now, second part. What is y when x is 0? And this is what we call our b. So let me change colors here. So we use these coordinates to find our slope, but we're also going to use them again. Let me erase so you can see the coordinates really good in our table. Okay, so when x is 0, so we do have that. If you look, x is 0, so we come right over here and we see what our y value is. All right, so we have y equals, or sorry, not y. Our b value, our y-intercept is going to be 3. All right, so I'm going to put equals, and I'll put a b right here. Okay, so if I go to write this equation, I'm going to write y equals, our m is 4, and that goes in front of our x, and our plus 3. It is a positive 3 on that table, so we're going to put a plus sign in front of it. All right, so that's our second one done. Now we're given another table over on the right side. Let me change back. So our slope, this would be our y2 and our y1. Again, you can choose any of these to use as your two coordinates. So I'm going to say 4 minus 1 over 1 minus 0. All right, and there's our m equals. Okay. So 4 minus 1 is 3. 1 minus 0 is 1. Our slope gives us 3, because 3 divided by 1 is 3. Our y-intercept. Go back over here. We're looking for when x is 0, what is y? And y is 1. So our b value is 1. If we were to write our equation, y equals 3x plus 1. All right. So that is how you would do it on a graph or given a table. Let me scroll down. We'll do number 4 together. Okay. So number 4 is a former STAAR test question. We like to use this one, Mr. Joel and I, to kind of get you to figure out, okay, well, given this graph, what best represents, what function or what equation best represents this? So first off, I'm going to look at my answer choices and see what the difference is. So I notice that the b's are either plus 6 or plus 3, okay? So that can help me narrow down my answer choices. So I know I have nothing down here. Let me show you these answer choices again. Notice how they're plus 6 or plus 3. So that's what I'm going to look at first. And I know this graph is not amazing. If you kind of look at it, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 would be way up here. This would be where 6 is. So we're definitely not going to use those two answer choices. All right, so how do we find out the slope on this graph when it's not the greatest visually? Okay, so what we can do is this one says that it's going down. They're both negative sloping graph, and this graph is a negative sloping graph. So does it go up 2 and over 1? Or does on the second, or on this J choice, up 1 over 2? So let me look. I know it hits right here. So then it goes up 1, 2 over 1. Does it hit? Actually, it's a negative sloping line. It would go down 1, 2, and over 1. It would hit right here. If it went up, it would be over here to this side, and it would keep going up 2 and over 1. And our graph does not show that, so it cannot be G either. It has to be J. And if I look at this with a different point, I start here at this one again. I'm going to go down 1 and over 2, and that is where it hits. And I could keep going down 1 and over 2. All right. Remember, if it has a fraction as a slope, it's going to be, I guess, less slanted. Like it's going to be a gradual increase or decrease. If you have a whole number like a 2, it would have been very much steeper. And you can see that because of those red dots. All right, I hope this helps. If you have questions, oh, there's another opportunity, sorry. Sometimes they will just give you that the M is 6 and your B is 8, and they will ask you to write it in slope-intercept form. So what they want is they want you to write it as y equals 6x plus 8. They simply just want you to put it in the correct spot. Okay, so again, if you have questions, email me or Mr. Joel.